Are you ready? Stand by.
Welcome to the 3 Gun Show, brought to you by Armalite. This is episode 153, and I'm your host, Dave Hartman. My guest this week is Lucas Oil and Lead Star arm shooter, Matt Martini. But before we get into the interview, a couple things. I've mentioned a few times that I started a Patreon account for the show. This has been really cool sort of thing to see the support and the community that we're building in the Patreon thing. We've got a private Facebook group for patrons, and it's just really cool. So what Patreon is kind of like crowdsourcing to support a creator. That creator is me. If you're interested, check it out. Patreon.com/3gunshow. Patreon.com/3gunshow. And thanks to all the patrons. Love you guys. You guys are awesome. So that was real quick. On to this week's show. It was great to catch up with Matt Martini at the Lucas Oil range after the PCC Championship to chat about the match, how USPSA treats pistol caliber carbine, and why there should be no high overall, which is kind of controversial. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on it. So if you have any thoughts on that, comment where you see this, whether it's on the Facebook page, the Instagram, or the website, 3gunshow.com. So Matt is actually a master class USPSA production shooter, and he achieved that classification before he started shooting 3-gun a number of years ago. And we get into mental performance and mental blocks, and you'll be able to apply it to your game as well. So be sure to listen after the show for a special offer from Armalite, and enjoy this one with Matt Martini. Matt, welcome to the 3-Gun Show.
Thanks for having me, man.
I'm excited to have you, dude. So we've shot together quite a few times over the last couple of years here, and we finally get to sit down after the Lucas Oil PCC World Championship, the inaugural.
Yeah, first one. It was a big undertaking. Forrest Lucas did an amazing job with the facility.
Yeah.
They put a lot of time, effort, and money into making this facility what it is. You know, it was the first year. It wasn't perfect. There's definitely things that we can improve on for the coming years, which there will be, future matches here, not only PCC, but other disciplines of shooting, which is awesome because this is a great place. But it was good for a first one.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. So this was cool when I pulled up to this range. So I came from, my last match was a Jeff Kirkwood Memorial match in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. It's an old established range at Forest Lake, Minnesota. And, I think it's been around for like 60 years or something like that. So over the years, they've added berms and they've added like facilities. There's like a clubhouse and things like that. So you kind of get like the sense of, it takes time to do this. And then I get down here and as I'm driving, I'm thinking, they're building this entire range for the PCC World Championship. I'm like, that seems kind of odd to build it for a match. And then obviously like bubble went off in my head. I'm like, oh, there's a bigger vision here. And when you get here, there's several bays in several different areas, and we're sitting on like some picnic tables that are on like a concrete foundation, and there's like actual road-based road going through here that you would see like on the Texas roads where oil fields come through and everything. Yeah. Like this is a significant achievement, a significant investment in a short period of time to put this match on, and you can see that there's a lot of potential for other things happening here.
Yeah, if you look around, like Mr. Lucas wanted it to feel homey, feel like a park, feel like you are somewhere where you can hang out. They went around and they cut the bottoms, all the branches off all the trees so that it looked like a park. He like all the way down. If you go from the entrance all the way to the back range, they limbed all the trees.
Oh, you're kidding?
No.
Huh. I see that now.
Yeah. It's a lot of little stuff like that what you wouldn't think about, but they wanted it to feel like you were somewhere that you could hang out and be and, shoot a match and spend time with friends. And it was, I think they did a good job for the time that they built it. It took them like 2 months.
Yeah, I mean, this is incredible for 2 months. And I would say absolutely mission accomplished. Like the area that we're at is where they had like the food vendors over here, as well as like a pavilion with like seats set up and everything for people to eat at. And it looks like kind of like a little cul-de-sac, but you can see that there's like a plan to it.
Yeah.
And then like a path leading to, again, where we're at out in the in the woods, and again, like you said, like a park, and it definitely has that feel to it. It's pretty cool. It's exciting to see someone excited about practical shooting in a way that we haven't seen before.
Yeah. Did you go to the racetrack?
I did not go to the racetrack.
So, like, I didn't know what to expect when I got here or how much was going to be done and everything else. I was just told, hey, it'll get done. They have the manpower, and it's Lucas Oil. Like, they've got the funding and the equipment and everything else behind it to make it happen. And like, we went to the racetrack on Saturday night, and I'm talking with Tom, who's like second in command to Forrest. And he's like, yeah, we're just going to a dirt track. And I was like, okay. And I'm thinking, like, where I grew up, the dirt track is a dirt track, and there's bleachers on one side. And
yeah.
That's about it. They serve beer and hot dogs, and that's it.
Probably going to catch a wheel at some point.
Yeah, basically. You're waiting for a sprint car to roll onto the stands. But, like, so we pull up, and here's this ginormous stadium with box seating on one side, big Lucas. We pull up, and they've got, like, golf carts to shuttle people places. There's a drag boat thing over there, and I was like, this is just a dirt track?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, this isn't anything. And I'm like, we have two different standards of what just a dirt track is. So, I mean, Forrest doesn't do anything halfway.
Right.
He's in or he's out. And I feel that, in the next couple of years, this is not just going to be a shooting range. It's going to be one of the go-to destinations for practical shooting, any discipline. And, I mean, you can, with all the natural terrain that they have here, we are sitting on a very small portion of a lot of land.
Yeah, so I noticed that driving in when I saw a sign that said Lucas Bulls.
Yep.
And I was thinking, like, oh, that's probably part of the Lucas Oil. And then I noticed that I had been driving along the same fence for several miles.
Yeah, the red.
And it's on both sides of the road.
The red fencing is all of his property. All of his property is fenced in by red fencing, and it is a lot of property.
Yeah, it's freaking huge.
Yeah.
So last night we drove down through the ranges here and on a back road up to the lodge where we had dinner and awards and stuff like that. And Mark Roth was telling me that this road here goes over to the speedway, which if you take the highway is about 16 miles away.
Yeah.
So it actually cuts through the property, and there's like a dirt road that takes you to the speedway. It's like that's how immense this property is. It's crazy. Yeah, it's pretty cool to see this amount of involvement in the shooting sports. Exciting times.
Yeah, we've come a long way from 3 years ago when they started the outdoor line. It was like, we have gun oil. All right. Well, now we have a world-class facility and gun oil.
And it smells good. The gun oil.
True. We had grape scent.
It's true. Well, Matt, we're not here to talk about the Lucas Oil facility, but I want to kind of set the stage for the people. Let's talk about you, and let's have people get to know you here. Give us an idea of who you are off the range, maybe like your background and how you came into competitive shooting.
So, I grew up in California. I wasn't allowed to touch guns.
Yeah?
Yeah. I had actually never fired a gun until I was probably, I'd say 19 or 20.
Okay.
My mother was extremely against guns. There was an incident with my grandfather trying to clean a gun, almost shooting my grandmother on accident through a wall.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it kind of burnt in that stigma about guns to her. She's since changed. I've taken her shooting. She loves shooting now. It's a big thing now that she understands how to handle firearms safely and that they're not dangerous.
That's good.
So I didn't get the younger, when you were a kid shooting. I've actually never been hunting, so I was never a big hunter. What had happened is I was hanging out with a group of buddies, and they're like, hey, we're going to go shoot a pistol match. And I was like, okay, well, I'll give it a go. And I've always been a competitive person. And playing sports growing up, always tried to be in the top level of whatever I'm doing. Went and just got crushed.
Yeah.
Just destroyed.
That hurt the ego a bit?
It bruised the ego, but more than anything, it was like, okay, not only am I competing against other people, but I'm competing against myself, which I loved. And from there, it kind of was a slippery slope of, all right, we're going to shoot pistol for a while. Shot pistol, everybody's like, hey, you need to shoot 3 gun, you need to shoot 3 gun, you need to shoot 3 gun. I was like, no, it's too. It's like, it's 3 guns. I've already trying to feed this thing and do all this. I was like, that's a lot of stuff. And then I ended up taking a class with Benny Cooley, of all people. And it was a pistol rifle course. And I'm shooting with him. And we get done. And he goes, hey, man. He goes, you shoot 3 gun? And I was like, no. He's like, you need to shoot 3 gun. I was like, man, I have never shot a shotgun, let alone loaded a shotgun. And I see what they're doing, and it was just when quads were starting to come out. And he was like, well, let me show you. And he pulls a Beretta out of the back of his trunk, and he's got a big doubles vest. And he's like, all you do is you just roll it over. And he shows me how to load strong hand. It's the only reason I load strong hand now is because right then he showed me how to load strong hand, and that's it. So load strong hand doubles, and I was like, oh, that's not bad. And then in, January of 14, I shot my very first 3 gun match, and it has been downhill ever since then. So that's how I got into it. And then I shot that one and was hooked and was like, man, not only do you have to be able to shoot a pistol, but can you shoot long range? Can you shoot hoser paper? Can you make 3 guns run? So that's what got me into it.
So that first pistol match, did you have your own gear? Did you have a pistol at that point?
I had bought. Everybody had Glocks, so I bought a Glock. And I know Casey Asubio is a great buddy of mine, so he was on Team Glock at the time. Mm-hmm. So Glock was kind of my natural go-to, and I shot it. I had purchased a stock Glock 17 Gen 4. It had, I think I put like Ameriglow sights on it or something.
Sweet.
Yeah, it was in production. I think I have shot a total of that match with that gun, because after that I went out and bought a Glock 34. But yeah, it was borrowed, like mag pouches. It was the 3 or 4 magazines the gun came with, and that was it.
Did you shoot production in that match?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why not learn to reload while you're there?
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's going to be hard, like remembering your stage plan and like actually shooting stuff, let's throw in a shitload of reloads to start off with.
Yeah, you only get 10 rounds and you have to run around and reload, so this should be super easy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always tell people, like, just shoot limited minor your first, because you're not going to win anyway.
There's
less to think about.
You're definitely not going to win anyway. I think limited minor is a good way just to get people out there and shooting and starting. For me, though, I do think when people learn to shoot, if they plan on taking it seriously, starting in production is good.
Yeah.
Because not only, one, do you have to reload without a mag well, 2, it teaches you stage planning and stage breakdown, which a lot of guys in limited are just like, I'm going to shoot this whole half of the stage, and then I'm going to throw a reload that I'm not looking at into my huge mag well and go shoot that half of the stage. So for me, like learning-wise, being able to stage breakdown, stage plan, efficiency of motion, stuff like that matters in production, and in production, points are where it's at. If you're not shooting points, you're not there. So it also focuses on that sight picture. Yeah. Which I'm going to say I got away from a little bit since those days, but it's there.
Yeah, so I kind of did it a little bit backwards. Like my first match was like a local 3-gun match, and then started going to the local 3-gun matches after that. And one of my early mentors, Ben Go, told me, well, you should shoot USPSA Production. And, now knowing what I know, it was like hey, Dave, you're wild and out of control. You can't hit anything.
You're gonna run out of rounds a whole lot faster, and you'll realize that you might want to aim.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's kind of how I got into it and shot some USPSA alongside 3-gun for a couple years in production with the same gun. But it was a real eye opener for me as far as like, oh, look at this game where like it actually matters where you hit on the paper and stuff like that.
I agree.
Yeah, kind of a fun way to start. So then, once you got into to 3-gun, where did you start shooting?
So I started shooting at Tar Heel 3-gun.
Okay.
It was one of the bigger clubs at the time in North Carolina, where I live now. We have a large population of shooters and good shooters at that. So we're very fortunate out there. 3 hours away from 4 major facilities.
Cool.
So major matches are close. The quality of match is huge. I mean, my club matches that are put on at Carolina Guns and Gear are basically the same level as major matches. They do a phenomenal job in having, I think we have 6 or 8 guys that are on the Pro Series this year.
Oh, wow.
So anytime you go shoot there, it's not like, oh, I'm going to go to the club match and stomp everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, I'm going to go to the club match and I'm actually going to have to work for it. So it pushes, and it's good because at those matches, we'll sit down and look at a stage and we're like, okay, you know, I could shoot pistol over here or I could shoot shotgun over here. And then we'll sit down and we'll be like, okay, what do you think? And then I'll be like, hey, I'll run it pistol over here. You run it shotgun over here. We're all close enough in times that as long as you run it, you know, clean, don't have anything crazy, that you can compare it and see which is faster. Instead of that, you make the decision, run it, and then you never really find out if that was faster. So it's a big advantage that we have over there.
Yeah, that's really cool. So there's been a ton of times where I've walked away from a stage saying, I wish I could shoot that again, but use my shotgun instead of my pistol and see what the result was.
Yeah.
So you can actually do that and then have like that data in your head for the next time you see that type of array or those type of options.
Yeah, that's what we go with. And then, I mean, there's several of us at that level up there, so and the stage planning, everybody sees something different. It's really good.
Yeah.
It's allowed people in that area to progress a whole lot faster than the guys who kind of have to grind it out and feel it out for themselves because they don't have the people to bounce those questions off of.
Yeah, it's a tough one when you're wanting to progress and you're wanting to get to that next level, but you don't have like a good yardstick of where you're at, and then you go to like a major match and just get your gut stomped out, you know, and you're like, oh, okay, well, this is completely different.
Oh, so maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was.
Yeah, you can be a big fish in a small pond, and then when you go to that lake, you can get eaten.
Yeah.
So when you started then, Carolina Guns and Gear shooting at Tar Heel, what was it that made you stay?
My competitive nature.
Yeah?
You can't.
Were you decent to start off with, or was it
I was
like
decent.
that first pistol match?
No, because I had at that point been shooting for, I think I shot pistol for about a year. 2 years. I was a masterclass pistol shooter at that point.
Okay.
So, like, I had a good base in USPSA, so stage planning and everything else that we had talked about transfers over.
Right.
You don't know the nuances of 3-gun. You don't know the little gamey pieces that come with experience and time. But you had enough for a decent foundation. And I wasn't terrible, but I surely wasn't as good as you know, the guys that were there then.
Right.
So for me, the big thing was like, okay, I wanted to be top 25 in the club. Top 25 came. Okay, boom. Now I want to be top 10 in the club. And it kept climbing till I was like, okay, I'm going to win this match. And winning a local for us is almost as difficult as winning some majors, just based on the amount of talent that's there. So if you can keep pushing and pushing and pushing until you get there, if you can win in the Carolinas, you can do well just about anywhere in the nation.
Yeah.
So
competition's that stiff.
I think we have the top 16 this year for the Pro Series. I think 6 or 7 of us all shoot together. Yeah. So,
yeah, that's quite the talent pool in one little area.
Yeah.
So 3-Gun Nation is huge on the East Coast, the eastern part of the United States.
Yeah.
So you guys obviously run 3-Gun Nation rules where you're at?
Yeah. We run 3-Gun Nation rules for 95% of the stuff. Tar Heel has stepped away and they do the outlaw stuff there, which is good because it forces you to aim. Do they do like Horner scoring or something? Yeah, essentially. Okay. One in the A, outside of the A is a half second, and then so on for further out. And we also shoot distance there. So like we'll shoot out to 450 on any given match. Yeah. So you have to be able to run base style stuff at Carolina Guns and Gear. You have to be able to run long range at VIR. You have to be able to run natural terrain at Clinton House, and you have to be able to shoot long range at Tar Heel. So it's the full package in that area.
That's pretty cool.
There's not, like I was talking to Scott, and he's like, yeah, we don't really have a lot of long distance stuff, or Max was like, yeah, I haven't shot past 100, and I was like, yeah, man, you gotta come out.
Yeah,
So.
well, and it's so true too. I talked to a lot of people like that, especially spent a lot of time in Minnesota this year, and they're like, well, we can shoot 375, but it's a straight shot because they're on their rifle range that's dug into the ground. There's no wind because it's surrounded by 3 to 4 stories worth of trees, plus you're a story down because you're in the dirt and it's a channel, So there's nothing really magical about that. But then you go to some of the matches I've shot this spring in Texas, and you're like, okay, we're going to shoot
some flat open terrain.
Yeah, exactly.
What's a wind call?
Yeah, well, yeah, you go out to shoot out 600 yards, and then it's so windy, like there's a cow rolling by and stuff like that. It's a whole new ball game for sure.
Yeah.
Where I started shooting in Colorado, like most of the practical shooting areas that we have, you can get out to like 200 yards. And you can't do it every single weekend because the club has rules of they won't shut down this range, but every other month. And so now it's a bay stage 1 month, or a bay match 1 month, and the next month it's a bay match with one long range stage, and we're going to shoot 160 yards because we have to have some movement in the start. So it's there's definitely an advantage to having clubs that test your skills at those types of distances right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
And Tissanen Arms, their Cawthorn Cartridge Club, they were shooting 450 yards at a local match, and that was the first one I went to. I was like, holy shit.
Wait, hold on. Zoom into 6 power. Where's the plate? No, that's way too far.
Yeah, exactly. And coming from my context, I was like, really? I'm looking around, and I'm like, are all these people going to be able to hit this? Because I've seen some people have trouble with 200-yard targets,
Yeah. I think a lot of it has to do with where you learn and how you learn. And you're right, the guys that come in and only can shoot to 2, and then you have to explain to them, okay, you're going to shoot to 450, the wind's coming from left to right. If you hold center, it's going to be somewhere that you're not even going to see impact. You need to figure it out. And that's hard to explain to somebody who hasn't done it. You have to shoot and realize that, hey, that wind is actually going to push that bullet a significant amount.
Yeah.
That I need to probably aim off the plate in order to hit it. So for us, it's good because you get that hands-on experience somewhere besides in a major match on the timer, ready to go.
Oh, look what I just learned.
Yeah. Then we give it the old 3-gun go, and you just keep cranking rounds at it until something goes ping.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. When you first started, then you decided, okay, well, 3-gun's going to be my game.
Mm-hmm.
How did you put in? So you already had the experience of getting from squirting bullets and dropping magazines to master class.
Mm-hmm.
How did you decide, or how did you set up your practice or your progression to get proficient at 3-gun?
It started with heavy shotgun because I could shoot a rifle decently. I could shoot a pistol decent. Shotgun was completely and utterly foreign to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I immediately got a Versamax at the time. I actually bought it off Shane Coley. And
sucker.
Yeah, right? Idiot. I set it up with what I thought was the latest and greatest. Got on the internet, saw some Dremelen stuff that you just get in there and hog that bad boy out.
As big as you can go.
Big as you can go. It wasn't pretty, but it worked. For a while, everything was good. So a lot of my practice was geared towards shotgun. Shooting the shotgun, shooting on the move, loading, standing loading, running loading, being comfortable with if something happens, I know how to fix it. And because that's the thing I see that gets a lot of people when they start is that the shotgun tends to be the big separator for new people and experienced people. Just the ability to load and shoot and move and do everything in a fluid manner, not miss your shots, not freak out when your slug count gets off, being able to control the situation and shoot and move. And the newer guys, that seems to be the decider for them, whether or not they're going to do well or they're going to kind of fall apart is where the shotgun is. So for me, a lot of it was shotgun-based training. Started with loading. Okay, can I load? Can I load 4 consistently? I don't really care about how fast I load 4. I care about if all 4 of them make it in the gun.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will sit there and they'll hammer down 2.5 second load 8s or whatever it is. That's crazy. And I mean, I've never seen anybody doing a match.
No.
Ever. So to me, like watching the upper level guys at the time, it was like, okay, they don't drop any. So I was like, how fast can I go and consistently hit it? And for me, when I do my training, my very first run is what counts.
Right.
After that, I don't really care because I've done it multiple times. So what I'll do is I will record my very first time for a drill and then my fastest time for a drill. And my goal is to be within 10% of that.
Okay.
So,
and is that because we shoot cold in a match?
Yeah,
Is that the idea?
Yeah. I mean, that's the idea. Is like anybody can come out here. I can run a stage 3 times and give you the fastest time.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Or like the internet videos, like, oh yeah, I ran that in 1.4. Yeah, you did, probably on like your 30th try. Like I can pull up and wing one at 400 and eventually hit something if the camera's rolling long enough.
Right.
So for me, it's like, what can you do cold stepping onto the range, and can you perform at that moment? Because you can't replicate match situations, you know, in practice. But I can go with, okay, I need to perform right now. Mm-hmm. So that's what I do is I record the first one. That's my time. If it goes bad, it goes bad. And if it doesn't, you know, that teaches you to kind of not go full blast, but not so low that you're kind of off of the pace that you need to be. But like that first stage that most of us shoot that isn't our 100%, but it's not our 85%. It's enough to get comfortable, but still be consistent because you don't want to dig yourself that hole. Mm-hmm. So I think that to me kind of teaches that. It teaches you that, hey, this is the limit that you can go starting cold and still be successful at what you're doing.
Right.
Because I had a bad thing where I feared my first stage because I had a good habit of tanking the first one just due to nerves or whatnot, and then I was always digging myself out of a hole for the rest of the match. And then eventually I started doing that, and I was like, okay, first stages started going better and better and better, and then now it's like, okay, first stage is just a stage.
Right.
Shoot it, don't try and go crazy, just be in it and get a good feel for the gun, and then let the rest of the match take off. So
do you feel that that's kind of like a mental sabotage thing of tanking your first stage?
Oh yeah, it was at the time, totally.
Yeah,
because it had happened.
Because then now you need to do better, and you need to prove to everyone that, and yourself, that I'm a better shooter than that, right?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it turned into a thing where I was just like, okay, don't mess this up. Don't mess this up. And you're not thinking about shooting. You're thinking about not screwing it up.
Yeah.
You're thinking about, I need to go as fast as humanly possible. You're thinking about the wrong things when all you need to be thinking about is nothing. Like you just need to let it happen. And that's I think part of the mental game that also separates, you know, the good from the great is that ability to just shoot and let it happen. Like talking with Jerry, like he just lets it happen. He doesn't get up there and doesn't think about anything. He just does it.
Yep.
And that's what makes him great is he doesn't have to, you know, he's not mentally convincing himself, oh, I'm ready to shoot this stage.
Talking himself up.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna burn this down. You know, I'm Jerry Micklick. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna shoot things and be awesome. So, you know, it was definitely a mental thing that took time and consistency for me in a match to get over. And now it's just, you know, first stage, let's go shoot.
Yeah, dude, I gotta tell you, one of the funny. It's kind of embarrassing, but usually things that are embarrassing for me are entertaining for the audience. But the thing that I do before a first stage, and this is kind of like started to get worse over the last year, is I kind of get a little, you know, phlegmy and barfy, right? No matter what I've had for breakfast or haven't had for breakfast. And I used to do this like every single day after work when I would go to my CrossFit gym back home. And before we'd work out, like I'd get like a big, you know, knot in my stomach, and I'm like, okay, let's just start lifting shit because I'm gonna barf.
I gotta get going now.
Yeah, and I would do it before like obstacle races and 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathon. Like this has been like a decade I've been doing this, and I get like barfy before a stage. It's kind of funny because they'll be, you know.
Have you ever barfed before a stage?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
What match?
Oh God.
That's got to be some intense pressure if it's making you vomit before a stage.
Well, but that's a weird thing is there's no pressure. It's just pressure I'm putting on myself, right? There's no performance or expectation of performance by anyone else.
No.
They're all up in their own head, and I'm sitting over here like so nervous. And I'm God, what one was it? It was recently. God dang, I can't even remember which one it was or what state I was in. But someone made the comment of. Oh, I stayed a little too late last night. And it's like, no, man, I went to bed early. I'm just really nervous. But, yeah, I did it here, too, before we started the stage. I'm just like,
feeling the butterflies
yeah,
coming
feeling the
up.
butterflies, yeah. It's kind of funny, like, the pressure in the games we play with our own mind.
A lot of it is self-induced, man.
It is.
And
Absolutely
people get weird expectations in their head, and everybody's watching me. No, man, we don't care. Nobody cares.
Nobody gives a shit about you.
Yeah. It gets a little, like on the Super Squad here, I mean, there were, we had 13 of us on there. I think everybody but like 2 was in the top 10. So like there's an expectation there to perform, and like everybody's watching. I don't think we all care how each other performs, but we're all watching, paying attention, seeing what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah.
And then you've got, Tony live streaming over here, somebody videoing over here. There's cameras. You've got, important people behind you, and you're trying to do something. You're like, okay, I need to focus on what I'm doing and not pay attention to what's going on back here. I think at that point, there is a little outside pressure besides what's in your head. Honestly, the worst thing I ever did was we did a demo in California for the outdoor line at some outdoor gun fair thing. And like I ran a stage as like a demo stage, and it was just some offhand rifle into some shotgun and then into a Texas Star. Nothing crazy stuff we ran a million times. But like knowing that all the people standing there are like watching everything you do, and you're like, man,
you're the expert.
If you miss right now, they're all gonna just think you suck. And you're just sitting there,
like, who is this guy?
Shooter ready? You're like, yeah. Looking over your shoulder, you're like, that's a lot of people. And then you do it, and you get done, and you miss, and you're like, all right, well, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. But I mean, like that was outside pressure, having all those people, and I mean that stage didn't matter. It's not on the timer. It didn't count for anything. It wasn't on a match. But the mental blocks that we all put on ourselves are 98% of the time self-induced.
Yeah, for sure. So how do you deal with those mental blocks? We all have them. Do you have like some sort of review process that you go through, like your match this weekend? Can you pick out the mental blocks that you've had on the match, and then what you're going to do better next time?
Yeah.
What the hell is this thing that's buzzing
It's a
us?
very large animal, and I'm holding still so it doesn't land on me.
All right.
The thing for me this weekend was it was an important match for me. I mean, I'm a Lucas Oil shooter. It's a Lucas Oil match. So there's that. There's always that in the back of your head. They help you out. You want to do well for them. You want to represent them. You want to do well in their match. All that sort of stuff. So that was there. The match itself was like, okay, this is a big match. Like, this is the PCC World Championship. There are good shooters here. You want to see where you stack up. You may not win, but at least you know where you stand in the grand scheme of things. For me, it's go up to the line, get a good stage plan. I mean, you saw Rob and I working over stages, trying to make last minute decisions, left, right. So basically, when I get up to the line and they tell you to make ready, I get up there, I check the optic, check the gun, make sure everything's good, and then you'll always see me just like pointing at stuff because I am running the stage in my head in target sequence. I've found that the more in-depth you can make your mental preparation, the easier it is to shoot the stage. So like if I know when I come into a position and my foot has to be on that spot, that is part of my walkthrough. I may not think about it when I'm doing it, but I know that my foot needs to be there in order to see that target over there.
Right.
So when I'm going through that last check, you always see me point at stuff, and basically what I'm doing is I'm counting off the targets in the order that I'm going to shoot them and going through everything, and then I'll say, yep, ready, shake my head, and after that, it goes black. And I don't think about anything, because if you're thinking about it, you're already behind the power curve. So for me, it's just like when they say shooter ready, stand by, and that buzzer's getting to go off, all I'm doing is just sitting there and waiting for the beep, because that's my next thing that I need. And originally it was like, okay, I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, don't miss that target there. Don't miss that target there. And then you end up doing something else because you were so focused on that. It's, to me, when I get up there, if it's not programmed in at that point, like, you're just going to have to make it happen. So for me to get up there and make sure that I can run everything in my head before I ever go allows me to run the stage without thinking. The target's just, I know I'm going to come here and shoot that way. Everything's going to happen and it's going to be done. So that's kind of my mental thing, is like, don't overthink it, I guess. Is like, once you step in there and you give them the head nod that you're ready to go, it should just be calm. Like, you shouldn't be amped up. You shouldn't be scared. You shouldn't be worried about something else. It should just be calm, and then just let your body take over what needs to happen.
Do you feel like you have like a natural proficiency, or that you're better at mental programming than, say, other people? Or is this a skill that you built up?
Yeah, I think it comes from experience. I think there are some people who can naturally remember things and do stuff like that. But the sequence at which you do it in and how everybody does it, I think, is unique to themselves, because it's in the end, it's what works for you as a shooter. So, you know, for me, it was a built-up thing. I'm going to tell you right now, when I first started, it was not like, hey, just be calm and wait. It was like sitting there and just shaking, like looking where you're going to go next. Like, it's not anything. It's a progressionary thing for me, and it's where I'm at now. And it may not be the right thing, but it's where I'm at currently, and I feel comfortable with.
Did you have any sort of influences in your game early on that have put you on the path that you're on now?
So I have been very, very fortunate with the company that I keep. Casey Asubio from Glock is a really good pistol shooter, good personal buddy of mine. I'm really good friends with Horner and Coley and Turner, all the guys from AMU. So I've had the ability to, like, when I have a question, most people, if you have a question, you can't text message Horner and be like, hey, man, what about this?
I've tried. It doesn't work.
Yeah. So, like, I have been very, very fortunate in the company that I keep. Like, it has significantly helped me push past, like, getting to a level faster than most people, because I do have the ability to make that phone call and ask that question, and or I shoot with them all the time. I mean, when I was shooting pistol, I got on the only time I've ever shot IPSC, I got on the IPSC Super Squad. So I shot with Matt Mink, Hopkins, Ben Stoger, Eric Graffel, as a guy who's been shooting for like a year. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, okay, this is how you do that. And you can't not shoot with people like that and get better. Like, you would have to just zone out completely and not pay attention. But, like, the ability to shoot with Eric Graffel, who's undisputed champion of basically anything he touches.
Yeah, I saw him. I saw a picture of him this morning with a bunch of gold medals around his neck.
He won World Shooting Standard because he was sick of winning it in production and open. Like, that's a hard life.
I'm bored of this.
Yeah, I keep winning, so let me try something else to show you how much better than you I am. But Eric's a great guy. But, like,
he is.
Like, I have been very fortunate that I have been able to surround myself with people that are better than me, because if you want to get better, you have to be around people that are better than you, because not only do they push you, but they have knowledge. And you can train all you want, but, like, range knowledge, the hours and time spent actually shooting a match experience, you can't buy that. Nobody sells that on a website or a store. Like, you have to put in the hard work to get there. But when you're there, you can maximize it. And by shooting with people that are better than you or push you to be better, I think that definitely helps people progress faster.
So then the match strategy starts long before that, when you're looking at practice score, trying to pick out those people that that are at your level or higher that are going to pull you up with them, right?
Oh yeah. And I mean, we like if you're squatting, I always try and squad with one, people that I know and that I like shooting with. Two, if I'm going somewhere out west, or guys that you don't get to shoot with very often, like Scott. I messaged Scott ahead of time. I was like, hey man,
Scott Green.
Yeah, I was like, we don't get to shoot together a lot. You want to jump on a squad together? And I put our squad together with guys that I don't get to shoot with very often, and they're great shooters. So it's good for us all to shoot together, because then you kind of bounce everything off each other and see where everybody's at. And I agree with you. Practice score, like when you're squatting, if you're just going to squad with people to shoot, I think you're kind of putting yourself at a disadvantage, as to where if you can get on a squad with some good shooters, and even if you don't, even if you still shoot your game, but maybe you pick something up. Maybe that, you asked him a question about stage planning, and that was an area that you picked up some knowledge. Totally worth it to me.
Right. So how do you be like a good squad mate and not be a weirdo that's asking like 100 questions, but still use it to your advantage that's learning, if you're, say, like a newer or mid-level shooter?
So I love shooting for the very reason that, like, no other sport can you go. I can't go play football with a professional football player every weekend.
Yeah.
Like, you can't go drive a NASCAR with a professional NASCAR driver and just be like, hey, how you taking turn 4?
Yeah.
So, like, I love shooting
like World Poker is a good
yeah.
example. I've been listening to a lot of poker players on podcasts, because they have a lot of mental game strategy sort of things. And, man, can you imagine sitting down with one of the pros and, like, having breakfast at Denny's and then sitting across the table at him?
Yeah.
Or with him? I mean, that doesn't happen.
Yeah. So I think shooting is great for that. As far as, like, all of us are approachable. I'm not going to say everybody, because there are a few guys that don't like being talked to when they're doing whatever. But most of us are approachable. As long as you're not, you have to have the etiquette. If the guy's on deck or playing with his gun or something, like, you don't go bug him then. But all of us are approachable. All of us, are willing to help, because we all know what it's like to be there and understand. And, major matches, there's a little more on the line, and it's harder to get people. But, like, I had a guy come up to me at the match, and he's like, hey, I got a question about your gun, and I got a question about this, and my kid wants to meet you. And I was like, oh, that's fine. I was like, I have the time, but right now I'm up second on the stage. Can I shoot? And then I'll link up with you guys after. And he was very polite about it. Yeah, I shot the stage, went over and talked with him and his kid, and it was a good time. Like, we're all approachable. It's just, we as shooters need to be like yes and no. But when you tell somebody, hey, I'll meet up with you after the stage, don't just run off.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's everybody's approachable. Just kind of have etiquette. But I do see a lot of guys that are scared to talk to people.
Oh yeah.
Which I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm around a lot of these guys all the time, and we all joke and hang out, and everybody's joking with each other and having a good time. But to me, they're all approachable. But I could see how, like, when I first started, I was like, do I really want to go ask Savigny how he's riding the stage right now? No,
yeah, I've thought the same thing. It's like, that guy's got his name on his shirt. It must be important.
All right,
he's either a mechanic or someone important.
Let's be clear. Your name on a shirt doesn't really mean a whole lot anymore. All right? There's a lot of people with names on shirts that I wouldn't ask how to plan a stage. It's
true.
So that's a slippery slope to go down.
One thing I'll say also is if at first you don't succeed, like, don't let that hurt you, right?
Yeah.
I've actually seen people, that I consider friends, and I'll say, hey, so-and-so, as I'm, like, walking past the stage or something like that, and I'll get, like, a complete snub, and I'm like, well, fuck that guy. I thought we were buddies. Yeah. And then just find out that he was on deck.
Yeah, he's
later
on
on
deck.
He's like, hey, Dave, sorry about that, and you just get focused and in your little hole,
Yeah, I mean, there's people who are like, hey, I said hi to you and you didn't say anything. I didn't even see it, man.
Yeah.
Nothing personal, like, in the zone at the moment. Yeah. I'm walking through my stage plan, or maybe I just had a terrible stage and I am yelling at myself in my head and trying not to look angry on the outside.
Yeah.
Like, we all have our moments ahead of and before and after you shoot, but I love the sport because it's approachability, man. Everybody's a good guy. Everybody is is willing to give you the shirt off their back.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, if something breaks, use mine. Like there's not a whole lot of people who are gonna be like, sorry.
Yeah,
So-
exactly. And I've had that experience too on the other side of it, where, you know, I'm trying not to vomit and remember my stage plan, and I'm walking, you know, toward the bay or something. And I think I heard my name, but I got ear pro in. There's gunshots going off. I don't have time to figure out who that is.
Yeah.
I'll come back later.
Yeah.
You know? So let's switch her up here a little bit, Matt. So you've seems like you've dove in into the PCC craze here that's going on. You're out here obviously at the Lucas Oil World Championship. When did you first pick up that PCC and think like, I'm going to do this?
So, February of 16 was Three Gun Nation's first PCC match at the Florida.
PCC only?
No. The PCC division was
Oh, okay.
launched
I gotcha.
at the Florida Regional.
Mhm.
I happened to have a GMR 13 that I was using for training because one of my local ranges, you can't shoot rifle in the bays. So I bought a 9mm training rifle so that I could shoot rifle in the base.
Smart.
I get a lot of dirty looks for that. So I had the gun. Garrett Howell also had one, and Bruce also had one. So there was 3 of us locally that had
Bruce.
one. Taylor. And then Charles Soule was like, hey, guys, we're launching this. We really want to try and get it off the ground. You know, would you guys mind shooting PCC? We're like, no, we already have the guns. I'm not coming out on equipment. So we all shot it. I think it was Bruce, Garrett, myself, Jason Edwards, and there was 1 or 2 other people. And
Romero probably shot it.
no, it was.
He didn't?
This was before then. This was the very first
Oh, wow.
PCC match that I know of that was ran. And it was a steep learning curve.
Yeah.
Whole steep learning curve. All of our guns ran because we had the JPs, and JPs have been good since they got launched. They just gotten better. But like we went with mag couplers and extensions and any piece of sexy gear that would allow you to somehow be magically better.
Yeah.
We attempted to use, and throughout learned that every one of those pieces just hurts you.
Yeah.
So
couplers is interesting. I remember seeing like a ton of couplers to begin with, and I didn't see
I got them
anyone
all.
here
I got
with
them all in the
couplers.
closet. I think they banned them for this match.
Oh, okay.
But so we went with couplers. We put 2 40-round magazines together with a coupler.
Mm-hmm.
Well, come to find out, if you tighten that coupler too far and you have hand loads, you can push it down past the coupler, but it doesn't come up past the coupler.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So Bruce learned that one. The base pads, I had them coupled together and pulled my PCC out of a bucket and ripped the base pad off of the gun. Learned that one.
Spread 9mm all over the range.
It was the quickest way to get rid of 40 rounds. And then let's see, what else was there? We had couplers fail. We had every magazine extension fail in some way, shape, or form. It was a trial by fire because nobody had anything for it.
Yeah.
I mean, there was back then. It was like you got a JP or you got a mag block, and I think there was like 3 or 4 manufacturers that made 9mm. Like it wasn't. It's definitely not. You didn't have buffer options, and you didn't have trigger options, and you didn't do anything. It was like, this is the gun, you shoot it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was where we started it. I didn't really shoot it much after that. I use it for training all the time. So I'm used to shooting a PCC.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, it's with it being introduced into USPSA, it's 3-gun training for me. So I can go shoot a USPSA match, work on my footwork with a rifle, which is really where I wanted to work on stuff because it's not something that we get to do. You can train with a pistol, but you can't do it with a rifle. So now I can do it with a rifle. So I use it there, and then with how big it's getting now, and they're going to do like a series out on the East Coast next year between Atlanta, Clinton House, and Carolina Guns and Gear. There's going to be like a point series, I think, based off those in just PCC.
Cool.
So there's that going on, and this came up. Lisa had brought this up. I think we started doing this like the end of last year is when we were like, hey, we're going to do this. So, you know, and with how the market and industry has 2017 at SHOT Show was like the year of the PCC.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, oh, I have a PCC now. So
Seems like a lot of people have embraced it and
Yeah.
kind of run with it. Even people outside of practical shooting.
Yeah. It's cheap, man. You can't, you can go put together a gun, and the cost benefit to shooting 223 to 9mm just to train, the gun eventually pays for itself. So there's no, you make it up in 5,000 rounds of what you would have paid had you shot 223 compared to 9mm. So it's there.
It's quiet. It's
it is quiet.
Comparatively to rifles, right?
Yeah.
It's quiet. It doesn't recoil that much.
No.
It's like a easy barrier to entry for introducing younger people or maybe people that are timid around guns to an actual rifle.
Yeah, that's the thing is I can give somebody my gun who has little to no experience, bring them to a USPSA match and be like, hey, shoot this, put the dot on the target, pull the trigger. They're not going to be fast, it's not going to be sexy, but they're going to have a good time because they're not going to miss as much. They are not going to be intimidated as much as to where if I give you a iron sights pistol and I'm like, hey, go run this match.
Yeah.
That is frustrating.
Yeah, especially if you've got a 40 caliber limited gun.
Yeah.
So now it's heavy and it recoils much more than say a GMR 13 or whatever.
So I do agree with you. I think getting people into the shooting sport with a PCC is a lot easier than with other platforms because it's easy to shoot, it's simple, and it's cheap.
Damn it, man! I'm gonna have to get one now.
Hey. I got a couple.
So you mentioned that you shoot USPSA matches with them. Couple questions on that. One is how do you manage shooting USPSA in pistol versus shooting USPSA in PCC? Because you need practice in both. And then second would be what's the reception like when you bring your PCC to a USPSA match? I'm super curious on that.
As per, open shooters aren't happy about not winning.
Because they were the top dogs for decades, right?
I don't believe in match overall in any way, shape, or form. It's just mind blowing to me that people care. I will when we shoot practical, I shoot and I compare scores against open guys compared to mine because if I'm shooting practical and I'm keeping up with an open guy, I'm doing pretty good for myself. Maybe I hit 3 reloads somewhere in there and he didn't have to do any, so I'm doing okay. I will use it for that. But in the overall, be it doesn't matter. So stop caring. Just let people shoot.
I don't even like high overall awards.
That shouldn't be a thing.
No, I mean obviously here it makes sense because there's one
here
division.
It's one division. If you're running one division, high overall is where it's at.
Yeah, exactly.
But high overall in a pistol match that the guy was shooting a 8-shot revolver, 6-shot revolver, and you beat him with an open gun. Do you feel good about yourself?
Yeah, I know.
I give that guy props because he's shooting a revolver.
Well, and for matches like Rocky Mountain 3-gun, you've got, and I'm gonna probably butcher this. Someone's gonna yell at it, but you've got say limited division, you've got heavy metal, you've got open, you've got tac ops, and there's probably 3 other divisions I left out in there somewhere that are combinations thereof, and high overall is something important to you. That limited dude's never going to win high overall when you're shooting out to 500 friggin' yards.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And if he does, good on him.
Yeah, if he does, hey, mazel tov.
Yeah, that's awesome. But I agree with you. I don't think high overall is a thing.
Right.
As far as USPSA goes, I made master class. I have no desire to go higher because to me, a GM is somebody that will shoot 95% at a national match. I can't do that. That takes time, effort, and dedication into that discipline of shooting, which I appreciate. So for me, I'm happy where I'm at. So USPSA has turned into 3-gun practice for me. I don't necessarily go for hit factor as much as I go with was my positioning correct, because that's the sort of stuff that USPSA is good for.
Yeah.
Is footwork, movement, positions, and being fluid through that. So USPSA has turned into how fast can I shoot your stage? They don't like that either.
Yeah, they don't.
Basically, I am the 3-gunner that they all hate. You're shooting limited minor? Yep. It's my Glock 34, and it runs like a champ.
Do you just randomly dump your GMR 50 or your, I guess, Lead Star is what you're shooting now? Do you just randomly dump it in trash cans as you're walking past?
No, you'll get DQ'd for that. They're very sticky about those rules.
They're looking for a reason to DQ you
Yeah,
anyway.
they're already trying to kick me out. So no, but so I shot PCC at Sir Walter, and I shot at Carolina Guns and Gear. Carolina Guns and Gear is definitely oriented towards 3-gun, and the group that shoots USPSA there is mostly us 3-gunners.
Yeah.
So it's not the very
PCC friendly.
Yeah, they're PCC friendly. Like I ran PCC in their USPSA match before it was a division in USPSA.
Oh, okay.
Because I needed it for practice, and they were like, "Yeah, man, we don't care.
Wow, that's cool.
Shoots 9mm bullets, go for it." So they've been awesome. Sir Walter is a kind of an old school USPSA.
Yeah, I've heard that.
It's not frowned upon, but you can definitely tell some of the older people are like, "You're bringing a rifle to a pistol match."
Yeah, there's some harumphs from the
crowd. But I mean, here's the thing: it's like if you can appreciate somebody who knows how to shoot. If you're going to shoot anything at the top level, it takes time, work, and dedication.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the guy who can go out there and crush it with a revolver because he's put in that time, effort, and energy to get good. Same thing with the PCC. You know, you go out there and you do well with the PCC, you still put in time, effort, and energy to get to that level. So I think it's kind of frowned upon in USPSA, and I've heard the horror stories of like people intentionally trying to find reasons to DQ PCC shooters and stuff like that. I'm kind of an outspoken person, so if somebody tried to intentionally DQ me for doing something that, you know, wasn't an unsafe act, you just are trying to find a loophole in a rule to get me kicked out, we're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
So, you know, nobody said anything to me as of yet, but
just this weekend, one of my friends was telling me that he was at I don't know what area it was, so I won't call the wrong area out, but a USPSA area match, and he had a end of a stage. Apparently, they unload show clear in USPSA still on a PCC with the hammer fall, and then you pull the bolt back again, and it started chamber flag.
Yeah.
And so he was cleared off the range and goes over and puts his PCC in a bag and was DQ'd.
Yeah, because he didn't do it in front of a range officer.
Yeah. And obviously the range officer saw him do it because he was DQ'd, so that was under the observation of a range officer. But he still had to go home from that match early.
That sort of stuff to me is petty.
Yeah,
like
it absolutely is petty.
If you're looking, you've already chamber flagged it, but it's in the rules. I get it.
Yeah,
you should read the rules and everything. If I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that that's how I do business. I don't. I carry my gun up to a line. I put the flag in it and carry it back over and put it in a bag. If somebody wants to DQ me at a match, sure. I'll run the timer and do what I normally do when I'm at a match. But like that to me is just being petty. Like let people shoot, especially newer people. Like there was a match and, you know, we were shooting and I was ROing and we had a guy on there who was really into the rules. Like super, super into the rules. And I'm all about following the rules and I'm all about being safe.
It's probably an engineer.
But this guy was a brand new shooter, and he was an older gentleman. He didn't have the best equipment, but he was out there trying. He was having a good time. And there were a couple of them running, and like he did something in the way he was making ready, or like he didn't have a snap on his holster or something. The guy's like, "Oh no, he needs that." I'm like, "Look, man, it's the guy's first match. Like he's not going to win the match. That snap is not going to change the outcome of this match because he's going to zero this stage. Let the man shoot." And like I think people need to take that approach, because if I had a bad experience with IDPA, I shot a couple matches and the people there were very, "You're not an IDPA shooter," and you know, harass.
"You're moving too fast, boy.
You're moving too fast. Cover, get behind here." And I'm like, "All right, man, like I get it." And you know, it kind of turned. I was newer at the time, and it kind of turned me off IDPA, and I haven't really shot it since. And I mean, it's a facet of shooting. Like I think you should shoot as many disciplines as humanly possible because it's only going to make you better. But I think we as a community need to, you know, focus on the newer people. because I'm not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. It's what we do. You don't have to worry about keeping me at a match because I like shooting.
Mm-hmm.
But that person who comes out there who is taking that big risk, they don't know anybody there. They're there. They have one gun with some floppy holster and one magazine that they're pulling out of a pocket. Like, don't make that first experience for them so miserable that they never want to come back.
Yeah, because the shooting is hard enough. If these, your perception is like, well, these guys are kind of jerks.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you don't. This is only going to get better if we involve more people in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is what it is. And with the stigma with guns and the culture around them, with the way society is today, we need to be as open as possible to getting as many people involved in it as we can. And it to me, like, I get it. USPSA is a pistol association. I mean, it is what it is. And, but in the end, like, nobody's robbing you of your division win.
Yeah. Like,
you're still going to shoot your game. If somebody wants to come out here and enjoy the sport in a different manner than you, so be it. So that's my spiel.
I like it. Well, and it's like you said, it doesn't take anything away from your victory,
No.
especially it might have the unintended consequence of completely getting rid of high overall as a thing.
It shouldn't be a thing, so it's fine.
Well, it shouldn't, right? I mean, it doesn't make any sense because we've all got different gear.
Yeah, I'm 100%
It only makes
agree.
sense in Mario Kart,
Dude, that's where it's at. I'm a top 5 finisher there too. Don't worry. Years of practice. I actually probably have more practice in that than I do shooting.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Like, if I had, for me it was James Bond. We played
The old GoldenEye.
GoldenEye back in college. Like, if I had like 1/4 of the time in dry fire
dedicated to gold,
freaking GoldenEye,
hours of just eye-burning GoldenEye.
Oh yeah, and we'd do like a rotation. There'd be like we were in the dorms, so it'd just be like a constant flow of like new guy comes in and he sits in the on deck chair, and whoever gets kicked out, you just kind of rotate around.
Yeah.
It's kind of a funny thing, but yeah, need some more dry fire, I guess. But well, Matt, we've covered a lot of ground here on your shooting career. What's next for you? What are you looking forward to most in the coming years for your shooting?
Short term for me, I made the finale for the Pro Series.
Sweet.
So that was a big goal for me. I qualified for the Pro Series in 2015. That was my internal goal, was to shoot 3-gun for a year and qualify for the Pro Series. I made, when we had to go to Tulsa and shoot, I made it in the 15th slot as the bubble boy. Thank you, Andy Peterson, for that beautiful term. And then didn't get to shoot due to obligations somewhere else. So, I made the Pro Series this year and was able to, and then that disqualified me for 16. So then I made 17, made the Pro Series. So the short-term goal was to focus for November for the shoot-off in Nationals there. And then next year, I'm going to kind of branch out a little bit, and I want to get into some of the long-range stuff, which a lot of us 3-gunners are doing. Greg Jordan actually went and did very well at a match this weekend for a team match. And like I said, I think spreading your horizons and shooting more is only going to make you better.
Yeah, I think you're right on that, and I'm watching the trends, and it seemed like for a long time it was like, you are married to this rifle, this pistol, and this shotgun. You will not touch anything else the entire 3-gun season.
Yeah.
And now I'm seeing a lot of people picking up different guns, trying PCC, shooting USPSA matches, and shooting like the PCC Championship like we're doing here. We shot with a ton of 3-gunners this weekend.
I just want to put it out there. Top 10?
Yeah.
Maybe a little further down than that. I'm not gonna say. I don't know who's all USPSA and who's 3-gun, but I will say that the vast majority of the top shooters here were all 3-gunners.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So
that's for sure. Well, and the other thing I noticed is I didn't know a lot of people here. Usually I go to the 3-gun match and I'm like almost know everyone who's going to be in the top 50.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I agree with you. I knew our squad and most of the other squads, and I'm terrible with names.
Mm-hmm.
So like I will see somebody and they will say, "Hi, Matt," and it draws a blank for a minute.
Dude, you know what I do? and I'm going to spread this one around, and we're going to spread it on the podcast here.
God.
Like this community should be the whole thing, right? So when I started shooting, I had like a local club that was associated with where I used to work. It was on the property, but it was like a separate entity, right? Mm-hmm. So all these dudes had been working at that corporation for like 30 years. You know, they were the elders and they were on the board and stuff like that. And I knew that I wanted some things to happen in the club that weren't happening. And I was like, well, I'm going to make myself familiar with everyone. So I would go up to all the old dudes and I'd be like, Gene, Dave Hartman, good to see you. And it's not the first time it was good to meet you. Every time after that was good to see you. And now he knows he's seen me before.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to do the awkward thing of like, what's this guy's name? Like, I know this guy, but he looks like every other young guy that I work with. So that's a pro tip right there.
That is
you want yourself to be known.
That is a good pro tip.
Yeah.
I like that.
Let's spread that one around,
I mean,
people.
Just with as much interaction as we have on social media with everybody nowadays, and you're not always what you look like on the internet.
That is a fact.
So some people's profile pictures do not directly reflect what they actually look like.
That's right.
And most of us have guns in our face in those pictures anyways.
Yeah.
So
or an
like,
eagle.
Yeah. So, you know, somebody will come and be, oh, hey, hi, you know, and I don't want to be rude. I'm just absolutely atrocious with names, and it's always been a thing, but I will always say hi and I'll always do whatever. But yeah, like you're saying, I knew a vast majority of people, but I think we had international competitors here. We had everybody. Some lady came up to Scott, Max, and me yesterday, and she's like, you know, can my husband get a picture with you guys? And we're like, why? I mean, I get it. Max is a national champion. Scott just won this, but like, what? Who? Yeah, sure. And she was talking. She's like, yeah, and your videos are really famous in Russia, and I'm like,
oh, you're kidding?
No. And I'm like, okay.
You know, it's funny. Like I saw her videotaping Scott and there was Josh Freilich on a stage. And I knew that she was with the Russians, and I was thinking, like, oh, this is the espionage that CNN's told me about.
I've seen it now.
I've seen it. I knew this was going to happen. And then I realized, like, after the fact, it's like, oh, this is what appreciation for someone's craft looks like.
And I think I think we don't fully grasp the reach of some of our social media stuff. Like, when I have a video and it's got, 20,000 views, to me, it doesn't mean anything. I put it on the internet because I did it, and I'm done. You look at it, enjoy it, see if you can learn something from it, and push past it. But I don't think we as shooters really appreciate it. Like, we're reaching people in other parts of the world and influencing how they shoot.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty cool.
It's pretty amazing with the podcast. Like, the first time I got, like, an international download, I was like, holy crap.
They want to know about 3-gun over there?
I wonder if this violates ITAR,
Somebody gonna bust into my house right now?
Exactly. And now I have to like remind myself, like every month or so, I go and look and see where the downloads are, and it's amazing the international audience that that the stuff like this reaches.
That is pretty cool. I will say, with the social media the way it is now, with you can look at the demographics and the age groups and like the area at which people are looking. Like, I have most of my views come out of California. Yeah. Which is strange to me.
Texas #1 for me, California #2.
Yeah. And I'm like, you people don't even have guns. Yeah. Like, what do you
Well, I always thought it was weird too. And then once I noticed that, I stopped making fun of California.
And my numbers went up. It was weird. But yeah, I mean, I think there's the social media part with being able to branch out and see everything like that is big. And I don't think we fully grasp what we're reaching or touching, because to us it's just shooting and putting stuff out there. Which, I mean, when I post stuff online, half of it is good stuff, some of it's bad stuff, so that I can show you what I did wrong or what's not working. But in the end, I think it's making everything better, because you can see stuff from, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I watched some of the IPSC World Shoot coming up for Shotgun next year. Like, I looked at some of the videos of the Russian guys and seeing what the style is, what the technique is, and I mean, normally you wouldn't get a chance to do that. Yeah. So it's good.
Yeah, it's a trip. So one thing on that, Josh Kenny, he's a shooter in the UK, young guy, and I met him when I was in Texas hanging out with the Hayes boys, and we did a little bit of practice before he went and shot a 3-gun match, and then I was like, okay, well, be friends with him on Instagram or whatever, following, whatever you call it. And then I noticed, like, Keith Garcia commenting on his things. I'm like, Jesus, this is like just such a small world. And we were talking about Kool-Aid before we got started here. And so if you take it back to like the time when Kool-Aid was a thing, you know, like the 80s.
Yeah.
If you told like, you know, 10-year-old Dave, like someday you're gonna shake the hand of a Russian, and it's gonna be on American soil, and they're gonna be cool, and you're gonna be competing, you know, on the same field. Like that would have blown my mind. And it's just amazing how small and like cohesive social media can make us as a community, as like a shooting community.
Yeah.
It's like you, at some level, you know of and you know these people because you've been watching their shooting videos of them, you know, training for the IPSC Shotgun World Championships. You know?
And I mean, that's how like I don't think I'd ever shot with Scott or Max before this match, and I wanted the opportunity to shoot with those guys because you watch their videos and you're like, man, that guy can shoot. Like I want to get in there and see what he's doing and how to get better. And you kind of make contact with these people online, and I mean, I've gone almost years without actually meeting that person until you're both at the same match or you're both at SHOT Show or something happens, and then you finally make contact. Hey, I know we've talked for you know the last 6 months, but it's nice to finally meet you. And you're right. I think social media kind of pulls the community together, but you can't the social interaction like that comes with it, to me, is where it's at. Like getting in there and BSing with the guys is really what this is all about. So
yeah, absolutely. And small example on that, I met Patrick Kelly this year at SHOT Show for the first time. But you know, he's been on the podcast before, and you know, we chat on social media and stuff. And he's asked some questions about like Instagram and things. And it was weird because we both were like, feel like I know you, but this is like the first time we've stood in the same room.
yeah,
it's kind of a trip. Well, Matt, where do you see the sport of 3-gun headed?
You know, I don't know. It depends on what I know. The Pro Series is gone for next year for 18. They're doing shoot-offs and the thing. So 3-Gun Nation is changing the setup. So that's going to be good. I think we have oversaturated the market with 3-gun matches. I think we have so many at this point. I mean, you could shoot essentially every weekend if you wanted to.
Yeah. Ask me how I know.
Ask me how much I drive.
Yeah.
It's like how much I'm not home.
That's exactly.
So, you know, like I think we've kind of hit an apex with how many are out there. I think we could stand to do a quality over quantity sort of deal, and I think we're going to kind of tune to that because people can shoot. Before 3-gun, you know, a couple years ago, there were less matches, so you had to sign up right when it happened, or you weren't getting in that match. I think
plus the you know, the match, and I haven't experienced this a whole lot, but the match could treat you like shit.
Yeah.
It didn't matter.
Yeah.
We're one of 6 matches here.
Yeah, you were doing it because it's the only time you and your buddies could get together and shoot. And now there's so many matches that I think 2 things are going to happen. One, shooters are going to become pickier. So they are going to select what matches they go to based on, you know, the venue, the amenities, the stages, and how it's ran. As to where before, like you're saying, those could have all sucked, but it's my only option.
Right.
So I think you're going to see a lot of stage or match directors going towards, you know, the full service package, trying to draw people into their thing, because you need a niche. You need something that's not just hey, it's, you know, this year's whatever match, come shoot it, because well, there's 3 other matches that weekend, so why am I going to come to your match when I could go to this one?
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of match directors really try hard to differentiate themselves. Dudes getting out of their comfort zone and actually, you know, taking out their iPhone and making videos of stages that they just put on the ground. Yeah, and talking to a camera like a guy that, you know, you wouldn't ordinarily
doesn't usually get out there.
Yeah, and on the other side, I've seen, you know, matches not fill because they're like, this is the match, here's round count. Yeah, and that's it. I mean, there's no other information.
Yeah, and I think, you know, information and reaching out to the people who are spending their hard-earned money to come shoot your match is going to be big, because there are so many. I think that's probably one of the biggest changes. I think we're going to see more divisions. to get, with PCC implemented, I think that they're gonna kind of, each match is gonna kind of have its own different thing. Like you're gonna have one match that does kind of that sort of 3-gun, and then you're going to have that match that does that sort of 3-gun. Maybe they have, a PCC something division over here, and maybe they're doing heavy over here. So I think you're going to have a variety to shoot things because it's going to be able to draw more people. But, I mean, I still see us growing. It's just we have oversaturated, and I think we're kind of going to a point where some of those over the next couple of years are going to go away because the prizes for the prize tables aren't there. And I know people that go to matches based on what the table is. I know people that go there based on what the competition is, and I know what people go to based on the person who's running and the venue that it's at. Yeah. And I think, you can't get very few matches are the trifecta of 3, where you have those 3 components together to make a good match, and those are the classics, and I think those will always be there. But I think a lot of the smaller stuff, and with how good club matches are getting also, it makes it hard for somebody to justify, traveling and doing a whole weekend expense when the club matches are just as good experience-wise as a big match.
I've shot several club matches around the country that put some of the major matches I've shot around the country to shame.
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
Yeah, like I'm saying, all the local stuff to me, very, very fortunate. Like it's not like, hey, we just threw this on the ground. It's like these are well thought out stage plans that are very well put together and ran exceptionally well, and it makes it hard for me when they're like, hey, drive, come out over here this weekend and shoot this match. And I'm like, yeah, or I could drive 45 minutes and be home by 3. So no.
Yeah, it's an abundance of options for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, this has been a fun talk, man. I appreciate you coming on the show. If you have one final thought or one piece of advice for the audience, what would it be?
Enjoy it. Shooting is it's a fun sport, and I think a lot of us, especially as you start to get better, don't get wrapped around the I want sponsors and I need to do this and I need to do that. Like, you'll burn yourself out. It's about enjoying it. So enjoy shooting.
I like it. That's a great final thought. Matt, thanks for your time here. Thanks for sticking around after the match and enjoying this beautiful Missouri day, which I never thought I would say in my life. I appreciate your time and appreciate you sharing the story with the audience. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, before you take off, check out the show notes at 3gunshow.com/episode 153 for links to things that we discussed in the podcast. You can also sign up on Patreon as a 3Gun Show supporter or purchase your very own 3Gun Show logo tee. As always, this podcast is brought to you by Armalite. Armalite has allowed me to get special pricing for listeners on their line of 3-gun rifles, both the 13.5 and the 18-inch, as well as their competition handguards, gas blocks, and tunable muzzle brakes. If you're in the market for a rifle or components to build your own, email me, dave@3gunshow.com, and I'll hook you up. Anytime you see me on the range, you can check out my rifle. I'm currently rocking the 13.5-inch 3-gun rifle with a Vortex Viper PST 1-6 on it, the Gen 2 model, which is really cool with the MRAD reticle. And it's fun, so yeah, you can even shoot it. So, quick reminder that if you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Podcast Addict, or wherever you get your podcast content, so you will always get the very latest. Thank you so much for downloading, listening, and subscribing to the show. I'm Dave Hartman, and I'll see you on the range.
If you are finished, unload, show clear.